Corversity checking in, and in this video I'm going to be going over my personal 2024 NBA All-Stars. But before I do that, first I want to make clear some of the changes to the All-Star Game format this year. Here on the NBA website it states, the NBA today announced changes to the format for the 2024 NBA All-Star Game, which will be played on Sunday, February 18th at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, home of the Indiana Pacers. As the league celebrates basketball's deep roots in the state of Indiana, the 73rd NBA All-Star Game will feature the return of both the classic matchup between the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, and the traditional scoring system with 4 12-minute quarters. The voting process to determine the NBA All-Stars will remain the same, with 12 players selected from each conference. Basically, the NBA is going back to East versus West, which the last time we saw that was during this 2017 season, and it was subsequently changed to selecting from a pool of players. Now that we're a bit over 1/4 of the season, I decided to create a list of my early All-Stars based off of what I've seen these past 20 or so games, and let me just say that it was not easy. Not easy at all. I was looking at some of the guys after I finished choosing and thinking there's no way I actually left them off the list as an All-Star, and I couldn't really give a good reason as to why. There were some sacrifices, but we're finally here. So I'll be giving you my starters for each conference, 2 backcourt players, 3 frontcourt players, and then I'll list the 7 reserves for a total of 12 players for each team. The last 2 will be my wild card or positionless players. But before I begin my selections, I just want to preface that I was factoring both team success, individual success, and also their total impact to the team. Starting with the Western Conference, this was easily the most difficult one because so many of the best players are in the West. With my first guard starter, I selected Luka Doncic. Not a lot to really say about him. He's putting up 33, 8, and 9 a game. The Mavericks are currently the 3rd seed in a crowded Western Conference where seeding is constantly changing. They're a top offense, and he's a big part of that next to Kyrie Irving. And as one of the best scorers in the NBA, he's been getting even better, as this is his best 3-point shooting year of his career so far. He's shooting 38% on 10 threes a game, which is the most he's attempted throughout his career, and he's making nearly 4 a game as well. With my second guard in the West, I decided to go with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Going into this season, I wasn't sure how much better he could become after last year, where he averaged 31 a game, but he's added on to his game even more. He's become more efficient, and most of all, an even better defender. This year, players shoot 42% when guarded by him. He's first in loose or on-ball steals, and first in deflections. He's averaging nearly 3 steals a game and a block, and has been one of the factors of the Thunder being a top 5 defense and the 2nd seed in the West, all while putting up 31, 5, and 6 a game. On to my front court, my third starter I chose was LeBron James. Year 21 and still one of the best players in the league, one of the most impactful players in the association. His team has a -11 net rating with him off the court, and we're once again reminded how amazing of a player he is. 25, 7, and 7 on the season, while having one of his most efficient seasons of his career. 23 games in, and he's shooting 40% from the 3 after coming off of one of his worst 3-point shooting years in a while. He's also one of the best rim finishers in the league, especially in transition. The Lakers are only a few games off of becoming the 2nd seed, and if they can get a streak going, it's definitely possible for them to gain a high seed by the end of the season. My next forward is Kevin Durant. This season he's averaging 31, 6, and 6 on nearly 50-50 splits, and has been a big factor in the Suns not being very far from moving up as a top seed in the West, as we've seen both Bradley Beal and Devin Booker have been in and out of the lineup. Even without them, he's been able to come through to lead the Suns to some wins, all at the age of 35. For my final starter in the West, I have Nikola Jokic. This was a pretty obvious choice. He's nearly averaging a 27-point triple-double, while also 2nd in the league in rebounds, and putting together some pretty insane stat lines. The Nuggets have been struggling with some injuries, so that's kept them from being a higher seed, but Jokic has held down the fort, all while being one of the best offensive players in the league. Moving on to reserves, I won't go too into detail. Not in any specific order, I have Stephen Curry. Probably my more difficult choice putting him as a reserve, but I'd give Shai and Luka the edge over him in overall play and success. He's at 29, 5 and 4 this season, carrying this Warriors team whose best players have shown regression. Next, I have De'Aaron Fox, who's been a very pivotal player for the Kings, especially their offense, because in the 5 games he didn't play, they averaged just 102 points, versus when he does play, they average 120. He's taken another leap just like last season, most notably his 3-ball, which he's increased his attempts from 5 to 8 a game, and he's knocking down 3 of them at a rate of 38%. This season he's averaging 30 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists a game. My first forward reserve is Kawhi Leonard. Just like usual, he starts off slow at the start of the season, but ramps it up later on, and now he's up to 24, 6 and 3 a game. He's undoubtedly been the Clippers' best player throughout their last 10 games, where their record is 8 and 2, while he averaged 29, 7 and 4 a game during that 10-game stretch. My second forward is Anthony Davis, who's been a very elite defensive anchor for the Lakers. He's one of the leading candidates for Defensive Player of the Year, and he's been more consistent offensively. Whenever LeBron's been absent, he's shown that he can take on the offensive load. For my center, I have Karl Anthony Towns. He's a player that had a rough start to the season, but he's picked up his place on both ends. Right now he's averaging 22 and 9 on 50, 40, 90, and his improvement on defense compared to past years is what has also contributed to the Timberwolves being the best team in the West. For my 2 wildcard players or positionless, I've chosen Anthony Edwards and Domantas Sabonis. Ant is putting up 24, 5 and 5 game on the best team in the West, while also being the most potent firepower next to Karl Anthony Towns. Sabonis, as usual, he's an offensive hub, working especially well with De'Aaron Fox. He's currently averaging 18, 12 and 7 a game. Some of my bordering all-stars are Devin Booker, Brandon Ingram, Lauri Markkanen, Alperen Sengun, Rudy Gobert, and Chet Holmgren. Now onto the East, which was much easier. Starting in the backcourt, I've got Tyrese Haliburton. He's one of the most efficient guards in the league. He's managing the best offense in all of ball, and he's doing this while putting up 12 assists a game while averaging 26 points. Next to him, I have Jalen Brunson, 25, 4 and 6 a game as the 6th seed. We just saw an incredibly efficient 50-point game where not only did he not miss in the second half, but he also went 9 for 9 from 3. Even putting that aside, he's been incredibly efficient this season, shooting 46% from 3 on nearly 7 attempts and 47% from the field. For the front court, I have Jason Tatum, best player on the number 1 team in the East, all while averaging 27, 9 and 4. He's still playing at an All-NBA level despite the addition of Kristaps Porzingis, which would reduce his touches. My other forward is Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's been as dominant as ever, especially this month. He's averaging 35, 11 and 6, and he even dropped 64 in the game. He's one of the leading MVP candidates in my opinion, and despite the Bucks' defensive deficiencies, they're number 2 in the East while Giannis is averaging 32, 11 and 5. My last starter and center for the East is Joel Embiid. He was dominant last year and is even more dominant this year. He's on pace to get his 3rd scoring title in a row, and what's been even more impressive is the leap in his playmaking, which has been thanks to Nick Nurse putting him in position to manage the offense. Now for the East reserves, the first guy in the backcourt is Tyrese Maxey. After Harden was traded, he's taken it upon himself to step up as a second option for the team, and he's been doing better than I expected, averaging 26, 4 and 7 a game. He's improved as a playmaker, as a scorer, and the duo of him and Embiid has been extremely difficult to stop, which is why they're the 3rd seed in the East. At the other guard position, I have Donovan Mitchell, 27, 6 and 5 a game. He has been struggling a bit lately in terms of efficiency, but will likely have to put that together with Darius Garland and Evan Mobley out for the next few weeks. He's still overall been one of the best scoring guards in the league. Scottie Barnes is my first forward. He's taken a leap after stagnating in his 2nd year. He's averaging 20, 9 and 6 this season, while also becoming a much better shooter, and he's improved his defense. Paolo Banchero is my other forward. He's becoming a much better 3-point shooter after struggling a lot in his rookie year, and he's been the best player for this Orlando Magic team that's the 4th seed, while averaging 21, 7 and 4. For my center, I have Bam Adebayo. Not only is he an extremely versatile defender, but he's also had to take on a larger scoring role as Tyler Herro has been injured, and this season he's averaging 22, 10, and 4. For my wildcard players, I've chosen Trae Young and Julius Randle. While the Atlanta Hawks haven't been doing so well after their first few games of his slump, Trae Young has been having one of the best stretches of his career and is now up to 28 points and 11 assists a game. It's a somewhat similar story to Julius Randle, who didn't start off the year well, but has gotten back into his groove, averaging 22, 10, and 5 a game. Some of the bordering all-stars I have are Damian Lillard, which is kind of surprising, but there's so many good guards in the league that it's very difficult to fit them all into the all-star game. Mikal Bridges and Franz Wagner. So this was my list of all-stars for the first 2.5 months of basketball, and if you have any opinions on the list or people you think should have been added to the list, let me know down below. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.